This is Jumping In, the short-form series of the Jedburgh podcast. I'm the creator and host, Fran Racioppi. Each week, I have the opportunity to speak with transformative leaders, visionaries, drivers of change, those dedicated to winning no matter the challenge. Our long-form series has been an opportunity to go deep, unpack all aspects of our guest and their story. For Jumping In, just like our Jedburgh teams of World War II, I want to get on and off the drop zone fast. I want to catch up with previous guests, give my opinion on what's happening in the world, and uncover some of today's most pressing issues. The entire Jedburgh podcast is sponsored by Jersey Mike Subs. Together, we share the mission of giving back and building community together. A percentage of all proceeds is dedicated to the Special Operations Warrior Foundation. Check out our website for full transcriptions of every episode at jedburghpodcast.com. Follow us on social media at Jedburgh Podcast on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Subscribe to us wherever you listen to your podcasts and watch our full video versions on YouTube. How you prepare today determines success tomorrow.
I think the hardest thing if you have a legacy brand or a nostalgic brand is to respect the past but not live in it. And in order to move the brand forward, I have to be almost brutally honest and realistic about where the brand is today. And where the brand is when I bought it in November of 2019 was 6 figures in debt. So we had to reinvent it and we had to figure out what is driving profit and how can we scale.
History tells us that most family businesses fail in the third generation. Stephanie Stuckey is determined to make sure Stuckey's not only survives, but scales. She bought her grandfather's roadside stand and candy business out of near bankruptcy in 2019 because she knew only a Stuckey could save the iconic foundation of the American road trip. I was in Atlanta for the Global Security Conference and I figured I'd make a pit stop at Stephanie's house to catch up on our episode 28 conversation from last September and jump in on just how she continues to rebuild Stuckey's brand, taking their candy products from 1,000 to 5,000 stores. Stephanie and I discussed the growth model and the balance between the candy and the roadside retail stores that defined the brand since 1937. We cover the importance of vertical integration in manufacturing and how partnership and buying local at every stage of the supply chain has reduced cost, increased margin, and maintained quality. And finally, Stephanie shared her A.I.R model for grassroots marketing: authenticity, interesting, and relatable. Stuckey's was a fond memory for many of us growing up in the backseat of our parents' cars. Stephanie's making sure our kids have the same experience. Take a listen on your favorite podcast platform. Watch the full video version of my conversation with Stephanie on YouTube. Subscribe to us and follow at Jedburgh Podcast on all social media. Check out our website at jedburghpodcast.com. Learn more about Stephanie and Stuckey's at stuckeys.com and follow them on social media at stuckeystop. Stephanie, welcome back to the Jedburgh podcast, and thanks for jumping in with me.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
I'm super excited to be in Atlanta. It's been quite a while, and I don't know if you know, but I used to live here, but I lived in Columbus when I was in the Army twice.
Wow.
But now we're talking 20 years ago. And Atlanta has changed so much. It's like a different place.
So you lived in Columbus.
Well, I lived in Columbus, and then my wife lived in Buckhead, and we came back and forth between the two.
So some of my favorite roadside attractions are in Columbus.
Which?
The Lunchbox Museum, the world's largest collection of lunchboxes.
I've never been.
Yes. Yeah, and it's also right by the Tom's Peanut Collection. So Tom's Peanuts was founded in Columbus, Georgia.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. In fact, it's National Peanut Day. We were talking about that
that's
before we started taping, and I have my favorite peanut brand because Tom's is really largely no more. They've been bought out like 20 times. But Beer Nuts is still with the original family that started Beer Nuts, and it's a grandson running it now. And it was also founded in 1937, same year as Stuckey. So I'm eating Beer Nuts today.
That is an absolute perfect synergy of 1937 Peanut Day, but we're going to talk about pecans.
We're going to talk about pecans today.
So, the company, since we last spoke, so it's been a year, which I can't believe it's been a year.
A lot's happened.
Okay, because you were episode 28, and now we just released 75, and we started Jumping Ins, and now we're 15 or 16 into Jumping Ins, and I can't believe that it was a year ago already that you and I connected, but so much has happened with Stuckey's. You have, in so many ways, revived the American road trip. I personally, since we spoke, have visited many Stuckey's now up and down the eastern seaboard as we've driven between Florida and Connecticut. There are Stuckey's pecan rolls across the country.
Thank you.
Now, I saw that they're now in Arizona.
Yes.
Which is super cool. And you've formalized many of your distribution partnerships and those arrangements. There's a second candy plant in the works. You were on the Today Show.
On the Today Show, New York Times.
Which is amazing. And I told you before we started, I was running around the house yelling to my wife that Stephanie Stuckey's on the Today Show. I can't believe it. Yet all of your marketing is so much at the grassroots level. And I mean, 100%. We were here and you were filming TikTok videos before we started.
I know, because I hadn't done one in a day. I was like, I'm behind. So I'm like, I do in one take because that's really all the time I have. That's not because they come out super polished the first time. It's just, I got 1 minute between meetings. Let me do it.
But it's authentic and it's you.
It's authentic.
That's so important. And that, I think, has been so important to the brand. And I want to talk about the business and I want to talk about the brand building side. But to recap, you bought the business in 2019. You purchased it from what your dad had left in it and then what the outside investors had in it over the years. You saw the value in the brand, the place that the brand had in American culture.
That's right.
Which, we talk about visionaries and we talk about, can you see where and how great something can be? You understood the history.
That's right.
And you understood, I think I can take this to the next level. There was profitability in many of the stores, but overall, over six figures in debt across the company. You said since that point in time, and at that time, that it wasn't about the startup, it's about the scale up.
Exactly.
So now I have to ask the question is, how is the scale up going?
It's going, but it's really hard. Scaling is arduous because right now we're in what I like to say, we're having good problems because we cannot manage all of the demand for Stuckey's product. And we've had to reinvent the brand. And you're right, we're talking about reinventing the road trip and the fun and adventure of getting in your car and just that freedom of choosing wherever you want to go and pulling over at the Lunchbox Museum if that's what you want to see. Right? It makes you laugh. Like there's something fun and there's also something uniquely American about that experience. And Stuckey's is tied up in the very DNA of the road trip because we grew as the road trip grew. But as I've had to reinvent the brand, because like you said, it was 6 figures in debt, I had to come up with a way to make money when we don't own or operate any of the stores. So thank you for pulling over at some of the stores that are still there, but there's only a handful of them still around. So the way we are getting the product out there is through third-party retailers and through distribution. So we went from being in about 100 retail stores outside of the Brandon Stuckey's locations to we're in 5,000 retail locations
5,000 retail locations.
Yeah. And that's largely through distributors, right? And so you get into a distributor network and they in turn filter your product out into all of their networks. And then you get into the large chain. So we're in Food Lion, we're in Ingalls, we're being tested in 2 markets for Big Lots. So Alabama and Ohio brought us into their distribution centers.
And those are huge retailers.
Oh my gosh, if we can get into Big Lots nationwide. But the problem is if Big Lots came to us right now with a big purchase order, we couldn't fill it.
Yeah.
Which again, good problem.
Due to manufacturing capability?
Due to manufacturing. So that's the scale up. So we are in the process of building a build-to-suit manufacturing facility.
When's that going to be done? At 2023, right?
We're looking 2023. We're optimistically hoping Q2 2023 for it to be turnkey ready, and then the move will probably take several months after that.
Let me ask you about this difference in the business model, because the growth strategy here, I think, is so important to your vision and where it has to go. And we see the picture behind us, and you said even before we started that everybody associates the brand with the roadside stop, but you've said those are few and far between now, and the focus is shifting, and you've put a lot into e-commerce, you've put a lot into this distribution. When you look at the balance between the two, what's that future, and how do you balance your vision between if you are trying to hold on to the roadside stands, or if it is going to be a push all into the commerce side?
I think the hardest thing if you have a legacy brand or a nostalgic brand is to respect the past but not live in it, right? And in order to move the brand forward, I have to be really almost brutally honest and realistic about where the brand is
And that's
today,
hard.
right? And where the brand is when I bought it in November of 2019 was 6 figures in debt. So we had to reinvent it, and we had to figure out what is driving profit and how can we scale. And what was driving profit at a scalable level is manufacture a product. So my business partner and I bought a manufacturing facility. We currently have a facility that shells pecans and makes the candy. So we're going to continue to drive that side of the business, and that is really the profit maker. But we are still all about the road trip, and we still love the stores. So the vision for the future is to have 3 to 5 very brand forward Stuckeys, what I'm calling oasis locations. And they are going to be amazing destination stores that you're going to go 100 miles, 200 miles out of your way to visit. And I have this whole vision of how they're just going to be these special roadside destinations, and we'll have photo booths, and I want to have the Zoltar, the fortune teller machine.
From Big?
I want to, right, exactly.
Yeah.
They have an Elvis Zoltar, by the way. So you can have like really fun ones. We'll have the best dog park you've ever seen because people love their dogs. We'll have RV spaces so people can sleep overnight there. We're going to have the most amazing road trip coffee that you've ever tasted. We'll sell books about the road trip. Like, it's going to be like a wall drug, right?
Yeah.
If you're familiar with wall drug, it's going to be one of those places that people talk about. And there's probably only going to be 3 of them, maybe 5.
How do you pick the locations?
That's it. I think we'll pick the locations around, well, availability and price is going to be a factor, but also where people are already going. Right. So in my mind, I'm thinking Branson, Missouri, or Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, or anywhere in Florida, right? I mean, Florida is like ground zero for road trips. California is another one, like Barstow, kind of thinking something that's along Route 66 would be fun. So Arizona would be a great location.
Yeah, where you have all that natural pattern.
Yes, where people already are going. Go where the road trippers are going.
You talked about vertical integration a second ago, where you control the supply chain.
Yes.
So you have the relationships in place, and your business partner too. And we should know that their family had been producing a lot of the pecans for you over time.
Pecan farmers, yeah.
And
my partner's a pecan farmer,
and which is great because you have this inherent knowledge. But now if everything from seed through final packaging, you have some control over this. How does that bring value to the quality of the product that you're putting out, and then also the ability to scale?
Well, that and also the price.
And the price,
right?
yeah.
You have much better margins if you control the process. So we do not own, we meaning Stuckey's Corporation, does not own any pecan farms. But I own pecan farms. My business partner owns pecan farms individually, like in our family. So we source in part from our pecan orchard. So in that way, we are controlling really from tree to table. So shelling the pecans, making the snacks and the value add products, right? The candies, and then having some control over the retail operations through our licensed stores. Yeah. And we do have a distribution center as well. So the one thing we're lacking that my grandfather had was a trucking company. And I'm not interested in getting into that. I mean, just once I start thinking through all that, like you got to have the insurance, you got to have the trucks, you got to maintain the fleet, blah, blah, blah. And so it's just like mind blowing all that he did. He also owned a billboard company. How brilliant was that?
There's a lot of money in billboard companies.
Yeah, fun fact, by the way, my Turner Broadcasting, Ted Turner, he got his start with his dad's billboard company.
Really?
Yeah. So, yeah, you can
see. Look,
it's a great start.
He had a vision.
Yeah, and both Georgia companies. My grandfather knew the Turner family and bought, rented billboards from them.
Wow.
But anyway, I digress. So, I think the more we learn, we learned this from COVID, how the supply chain started to break down. So the more you control the supply chain, the better. So we're sourcing from farmers in Georgia that are usually, 100-mile radius from our shelling plant.
So your distribution cost is super low in order to procure it.
Down, right? Shipping costs can be astronomical, especially when you're talking about shipping and the and from the ports.
Right.
Insane. And the tariffs and all the international issues. We got caught up in that Panama Canal mess. Remember when there was the blockage and everything was delayed? So we don't have that now. We source from Georgia. We source our packaging from North Carolina currently. We source a lot of our displays from Southwest Georgia.
Right.
So really, we're trying to shore up where everything is local, where literally we could probably get a truck to drive over and pick up what we need.
Yeah, if you have to, it's easy.
Yeah, and it keeps the margins better and the quality. And you touched upon that. So we're SQF certified, which is a certification for food. And that also enables you to get into the large chains. The last thing, when you're in the food space, the advantage to making your own product is if you want, you have the opportunity to private label. So let's say we want to get into Publix or Kroger, so many of those grocery chains, they have their own in-store brand.
Right.
Well, they don't. Some of them make their own. I'm learning that whole world. It's fascinating. Like Publix actually makes its own in-house product, but others outsource it. It just depends on what their business model is. So we could do private label for a large grocery chain because we make the product ourselves.
So let's talk about the product for a second because it's expanded beyond the pecan roll.
That's right.
And now there's a variety of products that are going out.
Yes.
What's your favorite?
My favorite is a flavor that we don't have out yet, and that's the teriyaki pecan. Teriyaki pecan? Yes, we're making it in-house. So I like the savory. Now, I have some samples to show, but unfortunately the top of the bag is ripped because I cannot keep my kids from snacking all the time.
Somebody got into them.
Yeah. Here's one. We have a line that goes in our catalog that's more gifty. And then we have what we call our Core 8 line. So the Core 8 are 4 flavors of snack pecans that come in these yellow bags. And then we have pralines, milk and white chocolate turtles, and the pecan log roll. So we have the sweet and we have the savory. And what I like about the pecan is it's a healthy nut. So we're recognizing the health trends. And I'm not going to say that the honey roasted over there is the most healthy because it is coated in some sweet stuff.
But it's good.
But it's yummy. It's yummy. But it does have pecans. It's the healthiest nut. But the roasted sea salt, that's going to be healthy.
Yeah.
And the teriyaki's healthy. And I can see as we grow, we can continue to expand. The sky's the limit with the flavors.
What about the pecan log roll beer?
Yes. So that was a collaboration we did. It was a licensing deal, and we get a modest return on that for every case sold. That was really a marketing play to try to introduce our brand to different consumers. And I entered into that it's Wild Heaven Brewery. It's a local brewery in Atlanta. And I know the owner. It's just a wonderful company, and they make a good product. And I like the way that their brewing process. So we actually did some sample batches and made sure that it really was a good quality product.
It tasted good?
It tasted good. It is on the sweeter side. It's more like a dessert beer, but it's not cloyingly sweet. And it actually got good reviews from some beer mags. But the whole idea was, let's try to get our product in front of new consumers and new generations and get people thinking of us in different ways. So I like to say the pecan log roll is a gateway drug to Stuckey. So it gets, people know us for that. If you Google Stuckey's, like the pecan log roll pops up. But there's so much more to our brand. And it's the same thing. I mean, you look at beer nuts.
Yeah,
you look at Radio Flyer. I'm thinking of both of them because they're both run by third generation family members. And both those companies have a nostalgic brand like Stuckey's that's reinventing itself. Beer nuts has like wasabi party snack mix. They have cashew nuts with the same flavoring. So they're expanding. Radio Flyer just came out with an electric bike that I ride. That's amazing. Yeah. So, but they're still keeping this is the classic beer nut. You're never going to go away from that if you have a nostalgic brand. You're always going to have the little red wagon if you're Radio Flyer. But you've got to add to it if you're going to remain fresh and evergreen. Yeah.
Your dad spilled the beans on the secret for the pecan log roll being the maraschino cherries.
Yes.
That was a great TikTok.
Ingredient. Yeah, that was fun. Dad got a lot of views. I told him that he's a TikTok star, and I think he's kind of a 2-hit wonder. That's it for Dad. He's
no more?
He's done. Yeah, I couldn't even get him off his lazy boy recliner, and like he's still wearing great. Like he's got his sweatpants on.
He was very natural. I liked it. He
was natural, all right.
Well, I want to talk about the marketing piece here because we spoke in our first conversation at length about your ideas and your approach to marketing. You still don't have a PR agency. You're still running your own social media. Now you're up over 100,000 followers on LinkedIn. Like I said, you'd been on the Today Show, and it seems like every week there's something else that's being announced that Stuckey's doing, something that they're involved in. I want to ask about branding because you said, I personally witnessed the connection people have with not just the brand, but the road trip. It's hard to have an emotional connection with a pecan log.
That's right.
You have focused the branding on the road trip, and hence we've seen you over the last year go and transition the story a bit from this is me, Stephanie. I'm now, as the third generation, have bought the company, and now it's I'm out on the road, and this is what it's like to be out on the road and introducing all these various places to the public. Why is that so important in the brand positioning?
Well, that's what we stand for. And if you are in the business of selling something, right? It's really hard to just get out there and say, buy my product, buy my service. That gets really dull, and it's also really salesy. People don't like to be sold to. People are more interested in an emotion, in a feeling, in a connection, in a story. And to me, one of the greatest stories is a comeback story, which is Stuckey's. And the road trip, it's uniquely American. So I had to think about what is really that special thing, besides the maraschino cherry ingredient, that defines our brand. And yes, it's pecans, and yes, it's the pecan log roll, but that's a product, right? And if you ask someone who's running a business, what is your why? Why are you doing this? If they say it's to make money, that's the wrong answer.
Yeah.
That's not a brand. That's just making money. I'm not in the business of simply making a profit. Making a profit is the way to build a brand. It gives me the resources I need, but I'm in brand building. And so if you want to build a brand, you've got to have some core essence that is really exciting to you personally, that defines your brand, but that will also connect with others. So we basically locked our team in a room for several hours and said, we're not leaving till we decide what we stand for. And it was almost like 12 Angry Men, if you've seen that movie, where we were, except there were some women in the room, but we were divided. And quite a few in the room were saying we're about the pecan. And I said, well, I'm the face of the brand because I've got the name, and I'm the one out there doing all the social media, and I can talk a fair amount about pecans, but after a while, I don't think it's super exciting, and I don't know how many people are going to really have this amazing connection with pecan.
Right.
I think some people do because it is America's native nut. A lot of us remember having pecan trees in our yards as kids, so you can say some things, but it's not like the road trip, right? And so we finally agreed, yes, our brand is about the road trip. So even though I am selling pecans, what I want people to think of when they go look on a snack aisle at the grocery store, the convenience store, and they see the array of products, I want them to go, oh my gosh, I remember as a kid taking a road trip with my family, or even if they weren't a kid in the 70s, I'm sorry if they missed out, or the 80s when we road tripped with our families, even though they don't have that necessarily that experience, they'll still think, as we grow the brand, I love to road trip. I have this amazing sense of freedom and fun when I look at this brand. So I'm going to buy this nut because of that. It's the same way you think about Corona beer.
Yep.
And the beach. You can be in your parents' basement in Cleveland, Ohio, this landlocked, watching a football game and pop a Corona and squeeze a lime in there and just get this feeling of being at the beach because that's the way they have branded it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so that's that's it in a nutshell. Yeah, pun intended.
I'm actually going to Cleveland, Ohio this weekend. It's so funny you said that.
Yeah, and here's the other thing. There's an endless supply of material about the road trip. Yeah. And it's all about connecting with people on an emotional level. So when I do a post about Chicago, because I was there last week, and I was at the starting point of Route 66, I can't tell you how many people either messaged or posted their personal connection with Chicago or with Route 66, right? And I don't do this alone. I'm the one, the mechanics of actually posting, I'm doing that, but the strategy behind it is very thoughtful and is done with our team, which is led by one of our board members, and he now is a part owner. So we have 3 owners. His name's Ted Wright, and he wrote a book called Fizz Marketing. And Ted had a really good piece of advice for me. He has an acronym, it's A.I.R. So for any post to be one that's going to take off and connect with people, it needs to have 3 things. It needs to be authentic. It needs to be honest. It needs to be real. It needs to be interesting. And it needs to be relatable. So you want people to share it. So you want to start a conversation. You're not just putting something out there to get likes. I would rather have 20 likes, but 30 comments, right? I'm less about the likes. Although likes are nice, they're kind of vanity likes, right?
Yeah, it's vanity.
It's just like, I feel so good.
I only got 7 likes. What the heck?
Whatever. But if you're starting a dialogue with people who really connect with your brand, that's the magic sauce of word of mouth marketing. You want the right people connecting with your brand who are going to, in turn, be in line at Starbucks talking to people and going, oh my God, have you tried Stuckey's pecans? Right? Like, what recommends a product to you most? Is it going to be an ad, or is it going to be a friend recommending it to you?
Yeah, it's the friend.
It's a friend.
Yeah, it's the community. It's the community that's built around it.
Yeah. So that's what you really want. That to me is so much more important than running these Google ads. No disrespect. I mean, I run them sometimes at the holidays. We don't have a lot of money. But to me, it's more important to get that word of mouth marketing. And that is really, really hard to do. And it's a lot of work.
Last time we spoke, you gave me your 3 daily foundations for success, and this time you gave me the 3 keys to word of mouth marketing: A.I.R, authentic, interesting, relatable. Absolutely love that. We always focus on we often, too many times, I'll say, focus on the result. Okay, you said, if your goal is to make money, you're never going to, maybe you get there, but it's going to be harder. You've talked a lot about enjoying the journey. We talk about it on many of our episodes about enjoying the process. You will get to the result that you want if you embrace the process and you wake up every day. And I talk about standards, and I say, can you set a standard every day? And when you achieve that standard day in and day out, and you commit to that over time, you're going to achieve that result that you were looking for. But you have to embrace and love that journey. What's been the best part of the journey so far? Oh,
it's the people. Right? And it's all the way. It's from the employees. And we're unique in that, well, I don't know if we're unique, but we bought another company. So we're growing by acquisition and by merger. So it's almost 3 years since I bought Stuckey's. I've merged with 4 other companies.
Wow.
And so each one of those acquisitions, we're getting more people. We went from 9 employees to we're almost at 100.
Wow.
And all those people are now part of the Stuckey family. And as we're looking for a new home, and I can't wait to announce it, but we're in a blackout phase where we're negotiating. By the way, all right, when I come back in a year, we will be in our new home. And we're keeping the other place too. So I don't want people to watch us and freak out and say, what's happening to your facility in Rennes, Georgia? We love Rennes, and we've got a plant there, and we're expanding is what we're doing. But the process of finding a new home for our next manufacturing facility has been fascinating to me. And the whole site selection world, that there are people, that's what they do. Full-time site selection and getting incentives and figuring out how you're going to be a part of the community and how it's a collaborative relationship. So that's what is really exciting to me as well, is the community that we're becoming part of, where we locate our facilities, and the larger community of consumers who, a lot of them are like me, they're road trippers.
Well, Stephanie, it has come a long way in a year. The brand continues to evolve. Your vision has been inspirational to watch. The journey has been inspirational to watch. I think we now have insight into where you want to go, and I think what the next year is going to bring. We, as I told you the first time we met, all of us who appreciate the American road trip are behind you. We're supporting you. I love watching it every day. We're such a fan of everything that you're doing. We continue to tell everybody who listens to our podcast to get out there, stop at Stuckey's, and support you, your mission, your vision, the Stuckey's community. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And I'll also close by saying not just Stuckey's, but our partners, right? We're about to go into Wawa in Florida.
Oh, boy.
Yes, I love Wawa.
That's amazing.
We're about to be in H-E-B in San Antonio, which is like the mother store.
Yep.
And then we're in Easy Mart. We're in Ingalls. We're in the Big Lots in Ohio and South Alabama. So visit our partner stores too, because that's how we're growing as well.
Now, these are huge stores.
Huge stores. Yeah. And
Amazing.
we love them.
Can't wait to keep watching it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. American Jedburghs went out to form the foundation of the United States Special Forces and the Special Activities Directorate of the Central Intelligence Agency. Thanks for listening to the Jedburgh Podcast. I'm your creator and host, Fran Racioppi. Join us next week for a new episode on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Check us out on YouTube for full episodes, highlights, and other behind-the-scenes content. If you like what you heard, give us a like and leave a review. Follow me, Fran Racioppi, Talent War Group, and our sponsor Jersey Mike Subs on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. Send your comments and inquiries to media@talentwargroup.com. As former members of Special Operations Forces, the Jedburgh Podcast and Talent War Group contribute a percentage of all profits to the Special Operations Warrior Foundation, supporting the families of our fallen warriors. Thanks for joining us on this episode. How you prepare today determines success tomorrow.